I wanted to share a new design that I'm working on for our spring needs and season extension needs. For those of you that follow the channel, you'll know that a pretty big theme in the work we do is about season extension. Cattle panel high tunnels and talking about these season extensions with low tunnels and cold frames, etc. One thing that I haven't really worked on before, and this is the first crack at it, and I'm really pleased with the basic design, is the idea of a mobile season extension space. And so what this is basically somewhere between a low tunnel and a little micro greenhouse that can move pretty easily. And you can see it slides along really nicely. Now we're on concrete here, but you could very easily add ropes to the corners and be able to lift it a little bit. And I'm going to go into the design. I think there's some elements to this design that are compelling. I'd love to hear feedback from you of what you've done like this or better than this, or what improvements you'd like to see. But the most exciting part to me is that this design is very, very accessible for people to make themselves. And in total, with all new parts, we're coming in just under $20 is what I spent on this. And I'm going to link in the description to, instead of spending a lot of time describing it in this video, to a number of videos that discuss all the different ways to bend EMT conduit, to cut out these clips, those sorts of things. But basically what I started with was two 2x4s. Now in this case, these are true 2x4s, 2" by 4", not nominal, of black locust. And I have a pile of these 8-foot 2x4s from a milling project that these ended up costing me about $3 a piece to make. But you could use white oak, you could use a nice heavy hemlock or larch or tamarack, you could even use yellow pine if that's what you had. I like locust because it's rot resistant and very heavy. And I cut these at 45-degree angles on the two sides so that when we go to move these, it has less resistance, less to hang up on. I also went through with a draw knife and a hatchet and rounded over the bottoms just a little bit to reduce resistance. Now in this first design iteration, I've left this simple with a little extension here. My idea is that I could drill a hole and attach a rope to this to facilitate moving, or drill a hole to be able to hammer rebar through it in order to pin it into the ground if I'm on really windy sites, and I'll talk about that in more detail. But this 2x4, very simple. Took me a little while to figure out the proper way to drill holes for this, but I ended up with a 5/8" Forstner bit. I think that's what it was, or a 5/8" bit for this 1/2" EMT conduit, and I drilled down most of the way so that the tube just barely slips in there, and then I countersunk 2 screws into each one so that this pole is very rigidly attached to this base. And that's done at all 6 points where these poles meet in. The nice thing about all this, the screws are easy enough to take out, the clips you can take off, the plastic you can roll up. The whole thing can come apart and very easily fit in the back of a tiny car, move to a site, and then be assembled again on site. You could fit a few of these in one small car. The other attributes to this that I like is I've set it up where the 4 corners use large binder clips. You can get these at a local office supply store. They're pretty ubiquitous. This one is ACCO, A-C-C-O. You can look them up online and get 12 packs of these as well. But they have enough strength after a few years. I'm really pleased with how well they can hold down poly, even with a lot of wind. And what this does is it allows me to open and access the interior from all 4 corners in a pretty easy way. And so what we're going to be doing in here, these are plastic containers that I get for free from our local grocery store, roughly 1 foot by 1.5 feet. I drill holes in the bottom. These are just, they go to the dump if we don't use them. But I'll be able to fit about 20 of these inside this space. And here's where here's where I feel pretty excited about the specifics of this. I'm demonstrating this on our driveway because this is where I'm going to use it. So our ½ acre, we're able to fit a lot in here. We've got chickens and gardens and all sorts of wonderful things, but we also have this driveway. We only have 2 cars. Well, we have 2 cars. It's a lot of cars, actually. We have 2 cars. We don't need...
We have a car and a truck.
We have a car and a truck. And we don't need room for more parking here. So I'm going to build 2 of these. And in the space of where 1 car could park on our asphalt driveway, we should be able to grow about 1,000 trees from seed in these free trash containers. If I were to sell each of those seedling trees for $5 a piece, which is a very conservative estimate, we could earn upwards to $5,000 from the space of where 1 car would park on an asphalt driveway. And I think this is important to share with folks because maybe you live somewhere where you have either very questionable soil, or you're on a stony place, or you have no actual gardenable space at all. Your driveway or a sidewalk with containers could be a viable place to consider growing food or even things that may generate you some income. So we'll load this with these containers. We'll clip down the corners. And be able to grow in here where a parking space would be. One other thing I want to mention with this, and then we'll wrap it up, is I left the edges a little floppy, a little excessive. Hello, Henry. This is our very old man, Henry, watching and seeing what we're doing. Hello. If you'll just look at this one corner with me. So I've left excess plastic so that I have options to adjust and work on this design. But one thought I had is as we get a little warmer, what I'd like to be able to do is vent the space without having to take all the poly off. And so this sheet is set up in a way where I can open it up and the heat can rise and lift out. And in the evenings, we can fold that up and fold this down to reduce airflow through there.
So this is its own separate sheet?
This is its own sheet.
That's clipped?
That's clipped.
Okay, and then this is...
And again, these clips, these are CPVC clips. I don't want to talk about how I made them because it was sketchy. So I'm going to link in the description to other ways. Do your research, find what works for you. I made a jig for our table saw, and a high-speed metal bit cutting into PVC plastic is really sketchy. So I would use hand tools and take your time, or a little Dremel or things like that. We'll link to some ideas that I think are safer than what I did. If you were in a high wind area and you couldn't pound rebar through, the extensions make it so it's easy enough to lay a cinder block on each of the corners.
On the wood.
On the wood.
Oops, my finger.
And what you could also do is lay a bar across, a wooden bar across the whole length of it, and put 6 to 8 cinder blocks. And I would be surprised if you could find a site windy enough that with 8 cinder blocks on every side, it was able to lift up and fly away. So about $20, nothing too complex. It's mobile. It allows us to grow in a swing season in a space where you absolutely can't grow crops, upwards to many thousands of dollars worth of valuable crops in a parking space. And I'd encourage you to check out our other videos on season extension and all that, and try these things, see what you can make happen for yourself. Thanks for watching.